Hello everybody, Stephanie here. Greetings from the kitchen this evening. So welcome, we're not going too far around, but welcome to my kitchen. So today's daily drop is about suffering. Hey Donna. And maybe by the time we're done, we'll have been essentially enlightened in some aspect. So I have really contemplated whether to go live today or not. And so, we're kind of new to YouTube. So hello to the YouTubers out there. And I have not been very consistent. And for those of you who tune in on the regular with us, or with me and us as my family, it's not a Monday through Friday thing, but it's more than not, and it has been a lot not than more since the beginning of the year. And for that, I'm not sorry. I don't apologize for that, because the family comes first for me, and as much as one of my many dharmas, purposes in life, is to help others, they are also a dharma in my life, and they are a priority. So that being said, it's just been a very tough time for us. And so if you do not know, our fur baby has taken a pretty quick health decline, which, if you know her, she's not been the healthiest for years. And I'm glad that I can find a little laughter in talking about this, because I really wasn't sure I would even be able to talk about it. But anyway, so Dirty is still with us, because I'm sure some of you are watching wondering when I'm talking about suffering. She is still with us at this point, and I feel like it's just physically. So I wasn't sure how far I would get into this and where I want to start, and I had all kinds of ideas of what I wanted to talk about this evening. And it will all come together, I'm sure. And maybe it won't. And maybe this will just be me rambling on, and you maybe not getting anything from this. But I don't ever find coincidence in life. And, I'm in the middle of my yoga studies for teacher training. And, a lot of the philosophy that we're learning is about life and death. And the elimination of suffering through the practice of yoga. And, one of the ways that we do that is detachment. And so it seems like a really harsh word. I remember hearing for the first time that I was reading this, I was like, oh, that's kind of harsh. Because as a psychologist, when you learn about the theory of attachment and you see what happens to babies when they don't have that firm attachment with their mothers right out of the womb, what that does to humanity moving forward, and every other relationship that person comes into in the rest of their life. And so attachment becomes a very important thing, and secure attachment is very important for molding secure children, giving them a great foundation. And so I guess when I was initially, I was going back to what I might have thought and felt the first time I read detachment. That's probably what I was thinking, was along that line. And but that's not what the practice is about. And the practice just is about seeing it from the perspective, or a different perspective, maybe void of the emotions, maybe not void, I don't know, numb. I don't know the word that I'm looking for. And again, this is something that I'm still learning, and I have been practicing detachment in many areas of my life. Like, what if I don't prescribe to that automatic feeling that I have concerning this particular situation, and I detach myself from it in the intention of allowing the path to unfold. If that makes any sense. And so, okay, for example, last week I came live I did go live a couple times last week, actually. And for here on Facebook, you would have saw it. But the second time that I went live here from Facebook last week, it did not I didn't save it, so it didn't get posted to YouTube. So it's all a mess and it's all a jumble, and I'm trying to start from here and not try to worry about what's going on. But anyway, the last time I went live, I was talking to you guys about something completely different, and it happened to be my anniversary that evening. And just like birthdays for me, it becomes a season of contemplation, of just reflection, and that's just who I am. And so I love Neil dearly, and before we were married, obviously we dated, but before then we have a really strong friendship that formed over a 12-hour distance. I lived in Florida and he lived here. So I think that's what gives us such a strong foundation, are those 9 months or however long that we lived in two separate places, and it was complete verbal communication and relationship. But anyway, I'm getting off track. Not that I necessarily had an expectation, but for me, and for anybody who's married out there, and let's just all be real, who is married out there or not, and even if not married, but in long-term relationships go through different seasons, and that is just how it is. And if you don't know that, that's the way it is. And most people don't talk about it because somehow it must be taboo or whatever. I don't know. There's been many discussions outside of this home with other people about this, and we are just as transparent as they come, and that's the way that we like to be. And last week I didn't want to talk about it with you guys until he and I had talked about it, because again, in my priorities of things, he's pretty high up there. God first, and my husband second, and my family comes third. So that's just the way my priorities are. I'm not putting that on anybody else. And so you guys, as important as in priority you all have in my life, wasn't coming above that. But we weren't not in the most, for lack of a better term here, a romantic place. And so flowers are a source of, what do I say? If we were in maybe that place, I might not mind them. I would find them a gesture of beauty. When not so much, I find it a gesture of to be cheap and easy, to be honest. And we were married, we celebrated our 13th anniversary, and this is not new information. And it opens up this door to talk about a reality of where we're at and what we would like, and a trajectory of where we want to go, and kind of a path how to get there. And anyway, lots of beautiful things came from that. But in that moment, in that day, did I have an expectation? And I'm still processing that, analyzing that. Maybe I did have a certain expectation, or at least that was not an expectation. But and I don't know what my expectation would have been, so I understand how some guys are like, we don't know how to understand women. Well, because I'm having a hard time understanding me at this moment. But what had happened was, I thought I could get mad and I could fly off the handle. I could get into a time of blaming. I could get on my soapbox. I could get in my little chair. I could have gone so many places. But what I did, what is not normal or something that I'm used to doing, or it's very new to my toolbox, is detaching from the situation. And so that is what I did, is that I just detached myself from the situation. And anytime thoughts would come up, I would use my pranayama, my breath, to refocus to somewhere else, to a more positive way of looking at things. And it was beautiful the way that worked out, and I allowed the path to unfold without forcing, without pushing, without putting my humanity in any way, shape, or form in the way and impeding the path, any blockages. If that makes any sense, I hope that's making sense to somebody out there. And that's a valuable lesson for me as we're moving forward with the fur baby Dirty. And so I don't know how you detach from a pet or something that you've loved so much to begin to allow that path to unfold. So I'm not sure how all that ties in together, but I do know as for most of humanity is suffering in some way, shape, or form due to whatever experiences that we have had that have caused some traumas or blockages or stunting of our emotionality, whatever it is. We all experience suffering, and that the first step to easing and ridding ourselves of suffering is detachment. And so do a little research on that for yourself, and see what you think about that, because I'm not going to do it any justice since I am a student just learning this and putting it into practice in my life to teach what that means. But I wanted to talk about suffering today, well, for many reasons, especially today being Martin Luther King Jr. Day. But the suffering that I want to talk about this evening is, and will relate back to all suffering, but about the dog. And so, you know, years ago she started having seizures, and we thought for sure we were going to lose her then, because they were becoming more frequent. And it just so happened that that is when we started using holistic things in our house. It's when we brought Young Living essential oils into our house, and you know, I made her a little spray to keep on her so that she wouldn't be bothered outside by any unwanted pests. And it just so happened to help her with the seizures. And so they actually, Neil just joined me in the kitchen. It's been a long time since she's had a seizure, don't you think, honey?
A little while.
It's been a little while. Like, I don't remember, and they were happening quite frequently. And so, you know, one of my Young Living associates, partners, whatever you want to call it, Lucy, you know, she was convinced that we had oiled the dog back to life. But anyway, so we've had some really good years with Dirty, because the kids would ask for another pet, and we always joke about Neil being the fun sucker when it comes to animals. But you know, he really does have a truest heart, is that, like, you know, the kids would want to bring a turtle in the house. Well, a turtle doesn't belong in the house. Leave the turtle out where it belongs. And, you know, and I'm like the bleeding heart, like, let's just save them all. And, you know, he's the voice of reason. Like, you know, you don't want to have, we have enough to deal with. So it's kind of been this joke, but the kids, you know, really did. And we had contemplated getting another dog, and you know, we just thought, well, no, we want her to have her last days in peace. And little did we know that it would be years and years later. And you would think in those years, and my thought for those years, that, well, at least we're prepared for the time when it comes. Except for now, the time has come, and I feel not prepared whatsoever. And so we took her, she went to the vet, I think it was in October or November, and Neil was pretty sure that that was going to be it. You know, we wanted to see what they said, and the vet was like, no, she still has some quality of life. And she had, I think it was an ear infection then too, wasn't it? And a couple other things. They sent us home with a couple of prescriptions, and she seemed to get better for a little bit. And she's still, like, you know, I don't know that she was ever fully potty trained. She's a little dog. She's a Maltese, but she was constantly having little accidents. And anyway, you know, you get busy with the holidays, and her health declined rapidly. And, you know, whether it's denial that we didn't see it, or just complete chaos and missed it. But I mean, I'm very shocked. Well, as was the vet. So let me say that. So it wasn't just us missing it, and it, you know, it happened fairly quickly. But she has somehow ruptured a disc in her spine, and she's not a candidate for surgery. And you might hear her now starting her evening routine. And she, you know, that's what she said, that there's some liver and kidney issues going on with her. And this time she had a double ear infection. She had an ear infection It might have been a kidney infection is what she was saying. I forget where else that she had an infection. But that at this point, there's multiple things going on with our dirty girl, and that she wanted to send us home to make her comfortable until we were comfortable with making the decision, which has just been heart-wrenching and agonizing. And all of these things that I thought that I was prepared for and realized I am not prepared for. And the kids and I had that conversation that day. Well, the day before I took her to the vet, I had brought her out with me. She had had an accident on herself, and Neil had bathed her, and we weren't sure what was going on her back. And so I wasn't sure if he just didn't wash her really well or what it was. And so I had given her a bath and did not realize how much weight she had lost, and then realized that that was not matted fur on her back, but that was her backbone, which, like I said, would make sense with a bulging disc. So I had said to the kids that day, I'm going to take Dirty to the vet tomorrow, but we're going to have this difficult conversation. And we kind of touched on it that day, and Neil and I had discussed that we might have to take her today. And so I had prepared myself for today, but what we hadn't done, because I was in teacher training all weekend, was prepare the kids for today. And so we had the long conversation with the kids about suffering, about besides all of those things, she has doggy dementia, which I did not even realize was a thing. But of course, it makes perfectly good sense that could happen to dogs too. So you'll hear her, she'll start walking circles around her bed and just barking. She's not in pain. And when I told the vet that, she was like, oh yeah, that's a clear sign. And she'll forget where she's at, and she'll pee in her bed, which she, even though she was never fully house trained, she never peed in her bed. So, we see it, and we're all aware of it, and the vet has assured us that we will all know, and some people have even said that she will let us know when it's time. And so we really thought today was going to be it. And then she got up, and she ate like a champ today, and we had the conversation with the kids, and the kids were not ready. And I have to just trust the process here, that and what everybody else has said, and detach myself from the situation as much as I can, that the kids will come to that conclusion and on their own as well. And so we talked about that suffering. We talked about the suffering of her, and why it's the humane thing to do, even though, I still have my reservations about that. But anyway, I'm not going to get into all of that. And then just about the suffering of people and their journeys, and, how can we alleviate and even eliminate some of that, and if that's even possible. And, it just, life gives you so many opportunities for organic lessons, not just with the kids, but in life in general. And, as heart-wrenching and heartbreaking as this is in this moment, I still have this gratitude that I just cannot explain, that I am learning what I'm learning, and that it makes so much sense in this moment. And, how to translate that into everyday living for all of us, I know is where this is going. Maybe not like the answer to all, but I know from this, enlightenment for eternal enlightenment is coming. And that's what I said, like, I wrote about it a little bit today. I'm finding it easier, and which is interesting in these moments, to share in my original love of writing. So, but that's just like with my yoga practice, that in the momentarily it's excruciating. Holding some of these asanas, some of these poses are excruciating in the moment. And I'm not talking like, because if it's pain, you should back off. But I'm talking about like really expanding and strengthening. It can be, challenging. I said excruciating, and that might be the wrong word to use, but that I know in the breath, detaching myself from that physical thing, that what's coming from that is internal enlightenment. So that goes across the board. So I know that that's happening in this moment as well, and not just for me, but for my kids. And, and when is the right time? I don't have an answer, but I trust that it will unfold before me. How is the right way? I don't know, but I'm trusting in the moment that we will know what to do. Because Jacob asked, could he be in there with her? And then that opened up a can of worms. Like, I don't know if you should be. Maybe in the first moments, as I read and did some research. And I really think the ASPCA for putting out there, like, how to deal with this in a family situation and how to deal with this with kids, because even as a psychologist, I was having a hard time coming up with words because, even though I've dealt with a lot of grief and I've worked with a lot of people through their grieving process, this is a different situation. And so I needed that, and I'm thankful that they had that resource on their website today for me to be able to go over it. And because the kids had questions, they wanted to know what would happen when we took them to the vet, and what the vet was going to do, and how would Dirty feel. And I guess maybe as an adult I didn't want to know some of those answers. That's why I didn't ask or think to look. But kids are inquisitive, and at the same time, the information is not going to hurt me. It may not be easy to know, but sometimes the unknown is even worse. You know what I'm saying out there, guys? You feel me when I say that? Sometimes the unknown is worse. And so I feel much stronger and confident going forward, even though, again, I still have some reservations, that we don't want her to suffer. And it is what it is. So if that's, people have, I got several messages Saturday. Was it Saturday morning or Sunday morning? This weekend was a blur, but is everything okay? Because when I get quiet, it could be like a downward spiral thing going on. And I am so appreciative of those of you who did reach out and are you okay? Because, anyway, it's been a long time since I've had one of those seasons, but, and I'm like, no, everything is fine. I hate that word fine, but everything is okay. It's been busy, with the teacher training, and, I mean, there's several things going on. There's always several things going on with us. We, started that community closet, and, anyway, lots of lovely, wonderful things. So it's nothing bad, but, it did distract me and take me away from this, which was interesting because that was one of my intentions that I said, is that I wanted to be consistent with this, especially since we were launching the YouTube channel. But it is what it is, and I can't go back and change it. But everything is good. The family is good in spite of the situation. And we'll keep you updated on that. And I really do appreciate everybody who's reached out, because I would lie if I said that there wasn't a time that I thought people who were distraught over an animal, I don't know that I ever thought that that was silly. I'm going to be honest. I don't know that I ever thought that was silly, but I didn't appreciate the depth of it until now. And couldn't have appreciated the depth. And I've had animals and we've lost animals, but nothing like this. And I don't want to get into my story with 30, because then I will be a puddle of tears over here. I started writing, I guess what you would call a eulogy, and I was like, this is maybe sick and twisted, but I know when the time comes, I may not be able to articulate the experience that I have shared with her, and the depth that she has blessed me personally. She's had a big impact, obviously, with my kids. She's been here before they existed. That's why I said she and I have lived here longer than anybody else in this house. And I don't know that I have lived with anybody as long as I have lived with her. So that was an interesting tidbit of information for myself, because I didn't have it. I mean, besides my mother, I might not have lived in the same house with my mother for as long as I've lived in this house, but I have lived with my mother longer than that. But anyway, what I meant is in one place. I have never lived with anybody but Dirty as long as I have in one place. But anyway, that's neither here or there. So that's the enlightenment for us, and I wish that I had more knowledge and wisdom to share about that detachment, but I think that I shared with you as much as I could, and how it has helped me through this time, and through other. And it wasn't just that situation. I've had to deal with several interesting situations over the last 10 days. Now that it's all coming back to me, like where I've been the last 10 days, and that is how I approached all of them. My teacher, Emily, she's been a source and wealth of knowledge when it comes to that, and not just that, but exemplifies that detachment, and it's not like a not caring. It's definitely a different emotion. So for me, who is like the queen of emotion, and the queen of helping people decipher their emotions and how to clear their emotions, detachment is a new one for me, and it's not in a negative way. So that's a very interesting thing for me. So, but that is the first step to end suffering, is detachment. So for whatever that's worth, thank you, Veronica, because sometimes I wonder if I'm just rambling on. But I know what I'm saying is for somebody, or I would not have felt so prompted to share this evening while I am a hot, sweaty mess, 3 days of yoga. And I was like, I'm going to get up early in the morning and shower. I was going to shower yesterday when I came home from teacher training. Because, 16 hours I spent in the yoga studio this weekend for teacher training. And I was too exhausted last night to take a shower. And so I was going to get up early this morning because we had an 8:30 class. And when I got up early this morning, we didn't have any water. Another water main broke or something. I don't know. It's a constant thing up here for those of you who live in the same area as me. I don't know if y'all are experiencing the same thing. But as I said, that's another one of those things. I don't, not only detachment from that, but like absolute gratitude I have. Like, it is temporary. Not 4 years ago in this season, we were months and months without water. So the fact that they can get that turned back on, even if it's in a few days, is happiness. But I'm looking a little rough, and feeling a little rough, and that's why I thought I really just I may be heading over to the Y tomorrow to hit the sauna. Now that I think about it, like, I'm thinking what could relieve. Besides soaking in a tub. But when there's a boil water advisory, I really don't like to soak in the tub. I just don't feel like that's a smart thing to do at all. The funkiness here is not good either. But for me to, like, I was like, oh, I don't even feel like going on there, and I was like, I don't even care. I'm a mess. I am who I like. That's it. It's like I appreciate this platform because I can hide behind my words when I'm writing, but a lot is kind of lost in translation when it comes to thank you, Veronica. You're so sweet, you're so kind. But maybe we'll just say that that's the glow from the light above me. Oh, a good thing it's not smell-o-vision. That's what I was like. I smell like I've been in the gym. Hot yoga, it detoxifies a lot of things. So, oh well. But anyway, everything that I shared this evening, that I felt prompted to share, because I'm sure somebody else out there is experiencing suffering in some way. Maybe not in this particular situation, or maybe you have experienced this loss and don't feel quite free to grieve it the way that you need to, because of fear of what other people will think, or the judgment that it was only a pet. Anyway, let me say this: everybody is free to grieve whatever, whoever, and however they see fit. There is no ABC model for grieving. You'll see that there are 5 stages of grief, but every place that you will see that there are 5 stages of grief will tell you in the same time that they do not come in a certain order, and they do not make sense, and that there's no blueprint for that either. We've talked about that blueprint in many ways over the last couple days, and there's no blueprint for that either. So whoever that's for, there you go. Oh, Donna, you're so sweet. I didn't say that so that you all would be so nice and complimentary. But y'all make a girl feel good, so thank you. Yeah. All right. So maybe we can all take some time to marinate, do a little research, search our hearts and our souls, maybe in prayer, meditation, about that detachment. Maybe collectively we'll come up with a better explanation of it, or maybe just like grieving, it means something different to each of us. So that is the beauty of this life, is that very rare is it black and white. There is shades of gray, and it's not, whatever it is that to that person. So this journey is something else, isn't it? So keep us lifted up. Your thoughts, prayers, send us good vibes, whatever it is that you do over this next couple days, as we know that it's coming and just waiting on the when. And that's a difficult thing too. Do you know what I mean? Like, in the beginning I thought, I just wish that it had like peacefully in her sleep so that we don't have to make this decision. And anyway, another can of worms I could get into. But I love you too, cats. I missed your face. You have to come spend some time with me on my couch, cats. I might need you too in the near future. So it is like today when we were talking about, we have to be prepared for not just what's going to happen when we go to the vets, but when I love you too, Donna. But like when we come home from the vets and, the kids want to bury her, that she belongs here. Her final resting place should be here. And I can't say that I argue with them, but that what our new reality is going to look like was very difficult for all of us to swallow, and just even thought of it again right now elicits quite an emotional response, because you sometimes take for granted those things. So let this be a lesson for all of us. To be mindful in all ways. So there's that. So hopefully this evening's daily drop, or not to this evening's, but today's daily drop has brought some enlightenment to all of us. I'm sure once I sign off here, I'll have an epiphany. I feel like it's coming. But oh, thank you, Marta. Never fails. No, it doesn't. That pure and divine love, it never fails. So I agree with that wholeheartedly. So I do appreciate all of you. That's so sweet. And this is a difficult, and it's a very raw time. And again, I think the teacher training really helped. And I just realized that like people who are watching on YouTube are they're not going to see these come up, and I'm just now realizing like they're probably like, why is she sitting there staring? I'm reading people's as they're messaging on the Facebook Live feed. But I'm very grateful for the yoga teacher training. And again, I said this the other day. I posted this, and say I know a lot of you maybe don't follow me on Instagram too, or wherever I'm at. But like, it is the single most beneficial aware personal growth journey that I have ever encountered, this teacher training. Somebody else told me that it has nothing to do with becoming a yoga teacher. It has everything to do with personal growth. And that is the most accurate statement, and then some. And so how I made it through 2 days without tears, I don't know. Detachment. I do know. I was definitely practicing detachment. And so for you empaths out there who have empath personalities, that I believe is the key. And so that's a whole other thing that we'll get into at another time when I have the mental faculties to really go into that and explore that with you all. But in the meantime, thank you all for all the love and support. We feel it. The whole family feels it. and it's raw, and so we're sharing it out there because, well, that's what we do. Because we all live life and we all have things, and it's how we experience it. And just like that phenomenon that I was talking about earlier in marriages and committed relationships that people don't want to talk about, that if people don't talk about it, if people don't forge that path and they aren't transparent, then people feel isolated, like they're the only ones that are experiencing that. And that is one of my dharmas and purposes in life, is to help people realize that they are not alone in whatever the situation that they are. In our Facebook group for pregnancy and infant loss, that's what we constantly are saying to these mothers and families all the time, is that you are not alone, because that is another one of those situations where people feel very isolated because nobody wants to talk about it. So in the same cases, for whatever your situation may be, you're not alone. That's what we are here for. That is what we have created the refinery for, is to help people. I mean, it's a holistic training center, but that is so that we can help people from mind, body, spirit, emotional aspects find their path to healing and wholeness. So, oh, that was a mouthful. I don't know where that came from, but there it is. So I'm signing off because I'm going to go cuddle up with my husband now and discuss what we do next, or just maybe just cry. So it is what it is. Much, much, much love to you all out there, and deepest blessings. Legs out.